You've missed a mortgage payment, or maybe more than one. The notices are coming in and the phone calls won't stop. And you're starting to wonder, how much time do I really have before the bank takes my house? It's a heavy question, and the truth is, foreclosure isn't a one-size-fits-all process. In Tennessee, it can move quickly, faster than most homeowners expect, but there are steps along the way that give you time to act if you know what to look for. Most folks don't fully understand the foreclosure timeline until they're already halfway through it. This is why this video is so important, because once the paperwork starts, the options shrink and your leverage starts to fade. But if you know it's coming, then you can turn a panic situation into a plan. I'm Molly with Cash Out of My Home, and we've been helping Tennessee homeowners deal with tough situations like foreclosure, title issues, inherited properties, you name it, for years. And we've seen every kind of scenario, people who have waited for too long and have had their homes taken right out from underneath them, and people who made one smart move and walked away on their own terms. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how long it takes to foreclose on a home in Tennessee, step by step, from your first missed payment all the way to the courthouse steps. And we'll cover timeline, how lenders think, what the law says, and where you still have room to take action, even if you're already deep into the process. So let's go ahead and break it down. Let's talk about timeline, because the biggest mistake we see homeowners make is thinking that they have plenty of time. And in reality, the timeline to foreclose in Tennessee is shorter and less forgiving than most people realize. Here is how it usually plays out. Let's say you missed your first mortgage payment in January. Your loan officially becomes delinquent just 30 days after that missed mortgage payment. So around day 45, your loan servicer is actually required to assign you a single point of contact, someone that's going to communicate with you directly about loss mitigation options like loan mods or forbearance. And most people don't even know that that's happening in the background. By the time you hit day 90, your lender has already likely started the internal process of flagging your loan for foreclosure review. They're pulling your payment history, they're reviewing the property value, and they're checking if you're insured at this time and making a decision about whether or not it's worth foreclosing on you. But here's the key turning point. Federal law says they can't officially start foreclosure until day 121. That's the 120-day rule, and it's meant to give homeowners a buffer, a chance to catch up or explore their alternatives. But once that window closes, the lender has a straight green light to move forward and move forward fast. In Tennessee, most lenders start the formal foreclosure process between day 120 and day 150, and that includes sending you a notice of default or a notice of sale and preparing for the public auction. From that point forward, things will move and accelerate pretty quickly. We've seen foreclosure timelines wrap up in as little as 5 to 6 months from the first missed payment. That means if you fall behind on your mortgage payment in January, your home could be auctioned off by June. And it's important to understand that not all lenders move at the same time and pace. Some are gonna wait longer, especially if your home or your property isn't worth much to them. Maybe it has title issues that they have to deal with. But if you have equity in your property and you sit in a hot market, then they're more likely to move more aggressively. We had one seller in Chattanooga who thought that he had time. He was only about 90 days behind, but his house had over $100,000 in equity. And the bank, unfortunately, fast-tracked everything. We were able to help him sell and sell it in time, but by the time he called us, the auction date was already posted. So don't wait for a final warning. If you're past 60 days late, the clock is ticking. And the further you go without a plan, the fewer options that you'll have. Here's one of the biggest reasons foreclosure moves so fast in Tennessee. It's because it's a non-judicial state. What does that mean? In a lot of other states, lenders have to go through the court system to foreclose on a property. That process is called a judicial foreclosure, and it can take up to 12 to 18 months or longer because of how slow court moves, and it involves court filings, hearings, and an approval from a judge. But in Tennessee, that's not how it works. Here, foreclosures are handled outside of the court system through something called a deed of trust. That document gives the lender the legal authority to foreclose without ever stepping foot in a courtroom. All they have to do is follow the steps laid out in the deed and they're off to the races. Once the 120-day window has passed, the lender can issue a notice of sale, and they're only required to give 60 days notice before the auction date. That notice doesn't have to be hand delivered or sent certified mail either. It can just be published in a local newspaper and sometimes posted at the county courthouse. That means that you might not even know your house is up for auction until it's already listed publicly, and maybe you're getting phone calls at that time. We've seen this happen a lot, especially with inherited homes or rental properties from out-of-state owners. Owners think that everything is quiet, but behind the scenes, the lender has already scheduled the sale date. One client in Eastridge didn't even realize their property was being sold until she Googled the address and saw her own home listed for auction. So here's the key takeaway. In Tennessee, foreclosure can feel silent until it's sudden. And if you're waiting for a big red flag to show up in the mail, you may just miss it. How fast, and let's talk about realistic timelines, is foreclosure in Tennessee? Let's get specific. How long does it really take to foreclose on a house in Tennessee? In most cases, from the time of your first missed mortgage payment to the actual foreclosure auction, the process can take anywhere from 5 to 10 months. But the exact timeline depends on a few key factors: how aggressive your lender is, the condition and equity in the home, and whether you take any action or not. Let's break it down into two common scenarios. In a slower case, maybe your lender is backed up, or you've started communication with them about loan modification. Maybe the house has some issues like structural problems, title defects, or it's located in a slower selling area. In these cases, we've seen the process drag out around 9 to 12 months. But here's the catch. Just because it's slow doesn't mean that it's paused. Lenders may be quietly moving forward with the process while you assume that you have time. Now let's talk a faster scenario. These are more common than most people think. If your home has a lot of equity, it's in good standing condition currently, or it's located in a high demand area where the lender feels that they can resell the property quickly, then they're more incentivized to move faster on that foreclosure. We've seen foreclosure happen in as little as 5 to 6 months from that first missed payment all the way to the auction date. And one seller that we worked with in Cleveland, Tennessee, fell behind in January. And again, by May, the trustee had already scheduled the sale date. Why the rush, you ask, for this property? Well, the house was clean, it was vacant, and it was worth way more than what was actually owed on the property. The lender simply had no reason to wait on the foreclosure. They knew that they'd recover the loan and maybe even profit from the sale. So here's something that most people overlook. Equity is not a protection for you. It's actually bait. And if your home is worth significantly more than you owe and you're behind, then your lender may view it as a low risk foreclosure for them. And that's when things become quick and act faster. So other fast tracking factors include if the property is currently vacant, if you've stopped communicating with your lender entirely, they take that as a red flag. If there are multiple liens or unpaid taxes on the property, maybe if your loan was sold to a servicer or a hedge fund with aggressive practices, that could be more of an incentive for them to foreclose quicker on your property. So when people ask us, do I have time? Our answer to that question is always, if you're more than 60 days behind, then you're already in the danger zone. The sooner you take action, whether that's applying for help, talking to your lender, or exploring a sale, the more options you'll actually have. Wait too long and those options disappear very quickly. By now, you know how fast foreclosure moves in Tennessee. But the question most homeowners don't ask is, what are the last moments that I can actually do something about it? Let's walk through critical deadlines, not just the legal ones, but the ones that matter practically from someone who's been on the ground working with sellers through the same exact situation. Here are some key deadlines to watch out for. So day number 1, your first missed payment. This is where it all officially starts. You're officially late the day after your grace period ends, which is usually 15 days after your due date. Most people think that nothing happens until months go by, but in reality, your servicer begins tracking the default immediately, and it's noted on your credit report within 30 days. Then the second thing to look out for is day 45. The servicer assigns a single point of contact. This is required by Tennessee law, and it's your best opportunity to ask for help and explore loss mitigation options like forbearance or loan modification. Most people skip this step out of fear or embarrassment potentially, but this is actually when you have the most leverage. Day 120, the legal threshold. This is where the lender gets the green light to start foreclosure proceedings. And it doesn't always happen on day 121, but it can. And in Tennessee, once that process starts, it moves fast. If you haven't contacted your lender or submitted any paperwork by this point, you're officially behind the curve. Notice of sale. Once filed, you're on a 60-day countdown from then. This is the last warning before auction. And in Tennessee, the NOS, notice of sale, doesn't have to be delivered to your door. It just has to be published in local paper and sometimes posted at the courthouse itself. And we have worked with plenty of homeowners who did not know that their home was up for auction until they stumbled upon it, maybe online, or they received a call or a postcard from an investor asking if they want to sell their property because they saw that they were facing foreclosure. So the final week before auction, here's the thing. You can technically reinstate the loan or sell the property all the way up to the day before the auction. But it's not that simple. Reinstating means getting the total past due balance, including legal fees. Selling means coordinating payoff demands, title searches, and possibly clearing out the home. We've pulled off deals in under a week, but it takes experience, teamwork, and a seller who's ready to move fast. Most people wait way too long thinking that they'll get more time, and then they run out of the runway. And the last date is after the auction. This is where Tennessee is especially unforgiving. There's no redemption period here. Once your home is sold, it's gone. There's no buying it back, and there's no reversing the process. The new owner can move to evict you almost immediately from when they purchase the property. And here's the deeper insight. Foreclosure in Tennessee isn't just always about one final date. It's about knowing which moments are worth acting on. Day 30 is when you should communicate with your lender. Day 90 is when to prepare a plan. Day 120 is when the window starts closing in on you. And once that notice of sale hits, you're in the final phase. So do not wait until the week of the auction to figure out your options, because by then, the only people who can save the deal are the professionals that know exactly what they're doing. Now that you understand the foreclosure timeline, the big question is, what can you actually do about it? Well, the good news here is that you've got options, but only if you act before the process locks you out. Once the 120-day mark hits, things move pretty quickly, and waiting too long can close the doors that are open to you currently in this moment. The first thing that you should do is communicate with your loan service loss mitigation department. They can offer you repayment plans, loan modifications, or forbearance if possible, but only if you start that process early. And if you're not sure what to say, then an HUD, a HUD-approved housing counselor, can step in and guide you through the process for free. We've seen counselors help our clients freeze foreclosure timeline and get temporary relief while they try to figure out their next step. But if keeping the home just isn't practical for you, maybe it's too much work or the monthly payment is far out of reach, even if you can get caught up, selling before the foreclosure auction is one of the smartest financial moves that you can make for yourself, your future, and your family. And that's where working with either a local cash buyer or a seasoned real estate expert can help you and would make the difference. Unlike traditional buyers who rely on banks, inspections, and contingencies, cash buyers can move fairly quickly. We're talking anywhere from 5 to 10 days in many cases, and the title search can be expedited to accommodate that escrow. Jonathan and myself have helped many homeowners literally just days away from the auction stepping in and negotiating with the lender on their behalf and getting the sale closed before the clock actually ran out. So here's what you can do to make this strategy work for you. No repairs needed. So you're looking for someone who's wanting to buy your house completely as is, no matter if the home is in rough shape and falling apart. You want a buyer who is not going to request any type of repairs. You need a buyer and an agreement that has no appraisals or financing delays. If you're looking for a cash offer, Jonathan and I can deal directly with your lender, often helping you stop the foreclosure process mid-term. You would be able to avoid your foreclosure on your record, which protects your credit and your ability to buy again in the future. And in many cases, you could walk away with at least some cash in your pocket instead of absolutely nothing, your credit ruined for the next 7 to 10 years, and your history damaged for a long time to come. Now, this is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but if the house is a burden and you're out of time, a fast, clean sale to the right cash buyer can be your saving grace. And yes, bankruptcy is also a tool. Filing for Chapter 13 stops foreclosure immediately with something called an automatic stay, but it's not for everyone, and it comes with its own long-term consequences. But in urgent cases, it can buy you just enough time to maybe sell or recognize or figure out a better way forward. Bottom line, you don't have to wait until you're backed into a corner to make a move. The earlier that you act, the more control you'll have and the more options will actually be on your table. Whether you want to save the home or sell it, you've got to lead the process yourself because the bank is not going to slow it down for you and they're not on your side. So the answer to the question, how long does it take to foreclose on a house in Tennessee? Well, in some cases, in as little as 5 to 6 months, from your first missed mortgage payment all the way to the day your home hits the auction block. And in a non-judicial state like Tennessee, there's no court process, no redemption period, and frankly, not a lot of warning. So once that clock starts ticking, you need to be able to move with urgency and with strategy. But here is some good news. You do have options. Even when it feels like the walls are closing in on you, you can still talk to your lender, explore the loss mitigation if possible, work with a housing counselor, or if the math doesn't work for you, you can sell your home before the damage hits your credit and your future. And here at Cash On My Home, we have helped countless homeowners sell their house before foreclosure. And here at Cash On My Home, we've helped countless homeowners all across Tennessee and the Southeast make smart, fast decisions before foreclosure hits. We buy houses in any condition. We will work directly with your lender to stop the auction, and we will help you walk away with your dignity intact and a clean, easy cash transaction, and hopefully put some cash in your pocket as well. So if you're behind on payments and you don't know what your next move is, reach out to us today. Even if you don't want to sell to us, I promise you we'll give you some honest advice based on our real experience, and there's no pressure, no gimmicks at all here. Please visit our website below or call us at 866-341-1663 to get clarity on your option before time runs out for you. And if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more no fluff real estate breakdowns, and drop a comment below with your questions because we reply to every question. Your next move matters. Make an informed one.